Okay, so here we are faced with the vine from a cane pruning point of view. We're going to be selecting the best options to both wrap down for this coming year and also for replacement purposes going forward. So this crown or head area of the plant is critical to how we're going to manage the vines going forward. As far as the ideal height that we're working to, I often put the blade of the secateurs on the fruiting wire here, and the positioning of the handles through here is the ideal height to be working to. Any higher we're going to have trouble getting canes down onto the wire in the future, and any lower we're going to struggle to contain that growth along with the rate of growth we're getting off the fruiting wires. So in the ideal world we want to be laying replacement spurs situated in that area, and canes can flow from there. As you can see, the two spurs here that were left last year were in that ideal positioning from a height point of view, and also are in the plane coming down the row, so they're protecting the growth in here, which is perfect for replacement wood for this coming year. So just look at some of the main attributes for cane selection and what we're aiming for here. If you look at some of these canes, we've got a varying degree of strength in the shoots, from weak little shoots to very strong. Some of the main attributes we're looking for is the diameter of the cane. The internode spacings, or the distance between the buds, is also very important to determine how many bud numbers we're going to get down on any given length cane that we're going to be laying here. So it's not just the positioning, but also the physical attributes of the cane is going to be determined in our selection. Another key component is to ensure that we get symmetry to the plant, meaning that we need to have a clear left and right hand side of the vine. We're aiming to get a uniform canopy all the way along the vine row, so we've got to be very careful that we don't create an environment that's not conducive to good replacement growth in that head or crown area for the following year. So it's not just 1 year, we're looking at 2-3 years down the track for how we position and select those canes. So if we look at this left-hand side of the vine here, we're pretty limited in our options of cane selection out on last year's cane. So we don't want to come too far out here because all this wood is non-productive in here. So it's really these 1 year canes that we're wanting to get down to provide the fruiting potential. So we'd have to be looking at coming right back down to this position to remove that older wood. So in this situation we'd have to eliminate through there, leaving this site with 3 shoots coming from it. Now we've got a double bud coming from the base here, which we really need to eliminate one of these out of the picture, because otherwise we're going to cause too much congestion. If we were to lay 2 canes plus a spur out of there, imagine how much congestion there would be with all the shoots coming out of all these node sites here. So technically one of those is going to have to be removed out. Now the one position down the row is in the perfect position to be spurred at that point to keep us going for future years. And as we've talked about, this cane here is the ideal for wrapping down for this coming season. So for this side of the plant, I'll be looking at spurring there, removing the double bud out of play there, and laying the top cane. And therefore we'd need to be looking at achieving, to get our 3 canes on the plant, we'd be looking at 2 canes on the other side, on the right hand side of the plant. So now looking at the right hand side of the plant here, we're going to need to obtain two canes to make up our numbers for what we're trying to achieve, as well as a replacement spur if possible. So again, a beautiful spur site here, we're generating top cane preferable to wrap, and one of these, again a double bud, but preferably one internally there to be spurred. Then we've got to make a decision out of potentially these 3 canes here, which are all pretty similar in their attributes and strength and internode spacings. Another aspect that is talked about was congestion. If we were to take this bottom one, for me that's going to create too much clutter if we've got a spur site there plus a cane and shoots from there. So I'd be either looking at this cane or this cane here to go down as our 3rd option. So I'd be looking at one of these 2 canes here to make up our third cane on this vine. so now we're in a position to make our cuts on this vine. One thing we need to be very mindful of is the dieback potential of when we're making a cut. So if we're removing this portion here, we can easily cut very close flush in there, which is then going to, with the open wound, going to provide an entry point for dieback material through into the main trunk of the plant. So we're trying to retain a bit of a nib a few millimetres out on there, being careful not to retain, as you can see, last year's node point still sitting at that point. We want to remove that, but retain, as we talked about, the basal whorl of potential bud sites sitting at this point. So it's just out a few millimetres, and we'll just be cutting through like so. So next we're going to look at removing one of these double buds that have pushed out of here to ease that congestion. So preferably the one in the centre running down the row is the one we want to retain. So I'm going to remove this shoot through here. So again, I'm wanting to cut through and remove node points without damaging internally through there. So it's just through that point, removing the bud but retaining that basal potential there. So the same on this node point here, we've got two shoots coming from the same site. So again, retaining the one pointing down the row, and we'll remove this shoot from the back. Okay, so as we talked about, we'll be looking on this right hand side, again double bud, remove the inferior one there. And then we're going to be retaining this as our cane to go on the top wire. So again, being careful of that node point through here, that we're not cutting on an angle, we're trying to cut straight across, just leaving a couple of millimetres above that node. Okay, so now we can leave these options for the person coming through to wrap and tie these vines, and they can then cut those spurs in place, leaving them now as a option in case of a breakage as we're putting down the ones we preferably want to work to. So now I'm just going to remove the remainder of the material out on the wire here to free it up.